What's up, everyone in the UCP Nation? Do not adjust that dial. This is not George, but this is Triple S himself, the man Seb, as they like to call me in the UK. Anyways, it's Sebastian Malden, and joining me is the retro gamer himself. This is the man that has beaten 10,000 video games. This is the man that has led Drake to all the fortune in the world. He is the Uncharted one himself. This is RGT. How you doing today, RGT?
Wow, what an introduction. Yeah, I'm very well. That is, I've never had one like that before. Take note, George. I want this every week. But yeah, I'm very good. I'm very good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well, man. It's been the gaming journey this year. We were talking about this when we were on. It's like none of us have felt like the ultimate high, and I think all of us are kind of chasing it.
Mm,
And I think that elusive golden dragon or the treasure at the end of the rainbow, I'm still searching for that. Like
definitely.
I've had moments. Well, I've had a lot of games that I've enjoyed, but nothing that I was like, oh, this is a Hall of Fame experience. This is my creme de la creme this year. And I think that's maybe it's an expectation thing, but I think that's like it feels like something's missing in the pit of my stomach while in gaming this year. Do you feel the same
Mm,
way?
oh, definitely. I think, like I said the other week when we were talking about this, and the latest gen has been. I've come back round a bit lately. I'm playing a game at the moment which has really pulled me back in.
Oh,
But other than that, it's been a struggle, and I think it was always going to happen after 2023. We were very spoiled in
we
2023,
were.
and
We were.
it's and for that to have carried on in that vein into 2024 was always going to be a struggle. But I feel it's gone a bit from one extreme to the other. It's nice that we've had the Xbox showcase, and we've had a bit from the PlayStation one they done. I can never remember the name of the PlayStation one, but um, it was nice. But they're all sort of games that are coming out later in the year, next year. As for this year, it's all a bit. Oof, it's a bit. I know we shouldn't really say that with how many games are on the market, but for new releases, it has been a bit testing so far.
Especially on the AAA side. I think the indie
Mm,
side has been really strong because you've had like Power World, Balatro,
yes, yeah.
Hell Divers, I would say V Rising. You've had strong entries in the
Mm,
on the indie side of the fence. I would almost argue indies have kind of carried this year, but like at least in
mm,
the mainstream sense, it's like if you're not a Final Fantasy person and you didn't get like all the highs from Final Fantasy VII Part 2, there hasn't quite been a game that feels almost A level in that AAA space.
yeah,
You
very
know?
much so. And yeah, we're very lucky with the indies. They always seem to
Mhm.
keep the scene moving along, and there's always games cropping up here and there. And sometimes it is quite hard to see those games. Sometimes you see them a bit later. They don't get the publicity that the Triple A's get. But like you say, from the Triple A front, that has been it's been barren. And it's as though we're waiting for that next big drop, but it just doesn't seem to be coming at the moment. But like
No,
you
but
say, I've jumped. Well, I threatened it when we last spoke on the show,
mhm.
but I've jumped into Forbidden West because I hadn't
Woo!
played that.
Yeah. What are you thinking so far?
I'll put it this way: I started it 10 days ago, and I've already
Okay.
put 38 hours in, and
Oh.
that's with a full time job. So that's how much I'm loving it. Yeah, um, I I would go as far to say probably the best open world game I've ever played.
Oh, excuse me, I almost had to censor myself there. Uh,
Yeah.
so the best open world game you've ever played. I love Horizon Forbidden West. I think this is the most underrated game of this generation of like because
Without a doubt. Without a
I
doubt.
I think so because like every time, like every time Horizon have come out, it's always been overshadowed by something a little bit
Mm,
bigger in the mainstream.
yeah.
It's debatable. I know most people would probably say it's always been overshadowed by something that's greater and better. And I think that's more, opinion based on like I know you were a big Zelda guy, especially with Breath of the Wild
Mm,
and how it
yeah.
overshadowed the first Horizon game. And then you also have Elden Ring. I don't know. Are you a big Elden Ring person?
No, I'm not really a Souls player.
I'm not
Really,
either,
I've
really.
never have been. And obviously from the critics and the scores that Elden Ring got, it is an amazing game, but it's a different genre. You know, it's open world, but it's not the same sort of thing as what this big story based
That's my thing
game.
right there.
And I think with Forbidden West, looks stunning,
Hmm.
looks absolutely glorious. Some of the best facial animations are brilliant. I mean,
Yeah.
you go back and put Starfield on, and you think, oh my god, you realise how good the facial animations are on Forbidden West. And then you've got the story which continues on, but gets even deeper and even bigger and even better. The map is fantastic. You're in new areas as you're heading west. Um, it's I just think it's an all-round game. They've ticked the boxes. Looks great, great story, great acting, great adventure. I mean, even as far as to say, Assassin's Creed has always been a game I thought of. They're very high and
Hmm.
lows, always been quite good. Assassin's Creed Origins was always my favourite. That's when they first went to open world. That's when they first tried to change it up. Really good game.
The
Assassin's Creed
RPG
Origins.
style.
Yes.
Hmm.
And I always thought that was always my favourite Assassin's Creed. Now, Forbidden West is like that, but times 100. It is so good in every way, and even the side missions. I mean, even in Assassin's Creed Origins, yes, you did have side missions. I've left my stick by the river. Can you go and get my stick? There isn't none of this in here.
Mhm.
I mean, I done a side quest the other day, which led into 3 other missions that I had to do as part of this side quest. I was doing it for 2.5 hours. This side mission, yet it was still linked into the story. They're so well crafted and written, and yeah, absolutely loving it, absolutely brilliant. And yeah, it definitely doesn't get the love it deserves, Forbidden West.
No, I think you're onto something there. I think like I always say, especially on my other show, the single player experience, I always say there's levels to this. And
Mm,
I think like in the open world Ubisoft formula where it's just, like where you see everything on the map and it's almost like a mission and collectathon type open world RPG, you kind of see that there are still levels to that style of game.
yeah.
Like Ubisoft is like they do the same game over and over again, and it's almost surface level missions.
Mm,
Whereas, like, I feel like Horizon Forbidden West, and I'd argue Ghost of Tsushima always also
mm,
had this same kind of level quality. It's just like everything feels well crafted. It's like they take that concept and they push it to the next level. It's the stories, like you were saying, they
mm.
mean something. The side
Oh,
quests,
yeah.
they're interwoven with like the main story a little bit, but also like they're offshoot enough to where like they can arguably be like the main quest on a indie game. That's how
Mm,
they kind of feel versus
yeah,
like Ubisoft. It almost feels like padding. It's just a little bit more that kind of
definitely.
makes the game feel a little bit more bloated and a little more complete and a little more worth that $60. Here, it feels like, no, this was always meant to be here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is, yeah, that's spot on, because in an Assassin's Creed, you'll sometimes find that there'll be, say, a side mission. You'll go and do
Mhm.
that side mission, and other than leveling up your character, you'll sometimes think, hmm, that was pointless. Not
Yeah.
once in Forbidden West have I thought anything has been pointless. And I mean, to be fair, compared to Zero Dawn,
Hmm.
they've even brought down the sort of level of craft, and they've brought down the skill tree. They've brought down um, like your accessories you're collecting, because obviously you now have your storage boxes, which it
Hmm.
automatically goes back to. So they've actually reined it in a bit. They've actually reduced it a bit to make the gameplay that much better. And it just seems so well crafted. It seems so well. I can't, so far, like I say, I'm 38-ish hours in. I cannot see anything where I think that should have been done better, or they should have done it. So far, everything is just hit the nail on the head. And when I sat back last weekend, I was going through open world games I've played, and I just thought, I don't know if there is one that's better. I really don't. I was a big,
Wow.
I still am a big advocate of Breath of the Wild. It's a very good open world game in a different way.
Hmm.
Um, but if you want that AAA, almost movie style game
Yeah.
that's written like a movie, but you are that character, you are Aloy, and you feel you're Aloy. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
They pull you into the story. I'd argue anyone if there's a better game than that's been done like that. And I
I
mean, if I went back to say a Assassin's Creed now, or a for instance, Watch Dogs or something like that,
Oof.
they're gonna feel very, very. This sounds harsh, but very amateurish compared to how Guerrilla Games have done this.
I think that kind of leads me into two questions I want to follow up based on your comments there. It's the first one, I think it's very interesting that you say you did the Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild kind of like comparison here, because like those games, because of the release date, because of the story that were attached to it, especially with Breath of the Wild more so than Tears of the Kingdom, are kind of linked together with Horizon. Like
Yeah.
everyone, like for a lot of people, they said, oh, you can't climb anything, so we're gonna go more Zelda and Breath of the Wild, which is, their prerogative. There's nothing wrong with that. Whereas like for me, Horizon hit a little harder for me because like it felt more focused. It felt like there was a dedicated, everything had a purpose. Whereas like Zelda, it almost feels like they gave you developer tools and they just said, hey, you play this like sandbox any way you want to, and you have that kind of freedom, and we'll loosely base like a story around that concept. Here on the Horizon side, it felt like, no, we have a dedicated sci-fi world that we built. We have structures in place. We have rules that follow those types of structures. And then we built an open world around this really cool futuristic sci-fi, almost dystopian story. Like
Yeah.
two different philosophies. No one better than the other. I would say it's just a matter of preference, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, I think Zelda, their storyline, although Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom are technically a separate Zelda story, the Zelda lore is already there. From Zero Dawn, this wasn't. This is a new IP that they've written, and they wrote so well. I love this story of, and this isn't spoilers for anyone who hasn't played it, but that you're in the future, yet you're the tribal characters, and the stuff you're finding of the ancients is technology far superior to your own. So it's almost switched around history. So the stuff in the past is the better technology than what you've got in the future. And what a brilliant idea, and to write that whole new IP and that whole new lore and the characters, and then to get them actors to, to act that out so well. I think anyone would find it a struggle to pick holes in the game. No, Zero Dawn, I think, was brilliant. Amazing game. I've played that this year. That was the first time. Well, I tried playing it before and it never clicked with me. I tried twice.
Wow.
Before, didn't click. And eventually George said to me, just get through them first 15 hours, that will click. and it did. And that was it. I was in the world. And I was always say that was always a solid 8 out of 10 for me. 7.5, 8 out of 10. But I think Forbidden West is a very, very solid 9.5.
Wow.
Which, yeah. And I think also you've got to remember with Breath of the Wild, a lot of the hype with Breath of the Wild was people weren't expecting an open world Zelda. So that was instantly a 7 out of 10 because they'd done this massive open world on a Switch. I know it'd come from a Wii U, but it was on the Switch.
Yeah.
That was this new open world, and that was a new way to play. So everyone loved it straight away, which is another reason I loved it. And don't get me wrong, I love Breath of the Wild. I'd like Breath of the Wild better than I do Tears of the Kingdom.
I can understand that's your first time in that kind of concept.
Exactly. So then when you play Tears of the Kingdom, you were back in doing the sort of same thing again, but just slightly enhanced. Still a brilliant game. And it's that they are brilliant at what they do on the system they're on. But if you want that real epic, massive, like I say, movie style new world to go into, then especially Forbidden West is absolutely stunning, absolutely brilliant. I can't wait to play enough.
I agree. Like, I'm gonna ask you a question. Have you ever watched the Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you like video games, podcasts, and reminiscing? I'm actor, video game writer, and total sweetie pie Connor Savage McCabe, and on each episode of Call Me By Your Game, I sit down with a guest for an intimate look at a special game from their past. Did you and your dad beat Spyro the Dragon over the holidays? Or was Halo 4 the one thing that united your roommates during your senior year of college? Stories like these are what Call Me By Your Game is about. From video game content creator Janet Garcia to Hades voice actor Courtney Vinays, I interview wonderful comedians and game industry friends about these memories. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe someday you'll call me by your game.
No, I haven't. No, I've actually. It was only a few weeks ago. I picked the game up for the Wii. I haven't played
You
it.
picked the game,
Yeah.
but never seen the IP for it?
Yeah. I just saw the game and I thought that looked interesting. I thought I'd never heard of it and I'd never seen it before, so I bought the game. But yeah, I've never seen the show. No.
Okay, so all right, so I was a big fan of it growing up. It was a Nickelodeon property that when I was probably like 6th or 7th grade, and keep in mind I'm in my 30s now, it's like that's when it kind of like took off for the first time, and it was about a kid who's basically like a guardian of that world. He was supposed to be the chosen one. He was Neo, right? And they're in a string of Neos because like every generation has an avatar. Like when the avatar dies, he is reincarnated. Another avatar basically is birthed, and they become the avatar. So I'm like, there's always has to be an avatar. So this guy named Aang, he was born into this world. He was the avatar. He was the airbender, and then all of a sudden, like, the Fire Nation basically decided, hey, we are going to take over the entire world. We're the superior benders of the world. Like, we're better than Earth, Wind, and Air. We're going to take over. And when the world needed him most, Aang basically disappeared and slipped into a coma and woke up 100 years later, right?
Oh, okay.
And, yeah. So woke up 100.
Sounds familiar.
This is what I'm getting at. He woke up 100 years later, right? And then Aang has to go and get help and teachings from a representative from each element: the fire, the wind, and the water, right?
Wow.
Okay, so you've already connected the dots here.
Yeah.
So skipping ahead a little bit, when I first turned on Breath of the Wild, I was just like, oh, this feels familiar. And then like 5 hours in, I'm like, no, this is the same exact story. It felt like the story from Avatar: The Last Airbender, except Nintendo just did the exact same story and turned it into, instead of Aang, who's like this goofy lovable character, they used Link, who was basically this mute character.
No way, yeah. That's interesting. I might have to watch that.
It is the exam. Like, watch the show and then tell me, like, beat for beat, if like the overall story isn't very much the same as Breath of the Wild. There are minute differences, don't get me wrong. It's just like the core storyline of, like, if you're writing the Spark Notes, where like they give you like the overall big plot points, they're very similar, is all I'm saying. And for me, like, as a narrative guy, as a guy who likes literature and all that felt like such a deterrent for me when I was playing Breath of the Wild. And then I add to the fact that I loved Horizon because of like its gameplay, its mechanics. Its gameplay is a lot deeper than Zelda's. And keep in mind, this is my first Zelda, so I had never known what to expect. I heard great things about Zelda, but then I played it and I'm like, oh, so the gameplay when you're actually in action boils down to you have a dodge, you have a parry with a shield, you can jump backwards, and then you can whack somebody. And I'm like, oh, those are the 4 only things you can use. And then you can also like use a couple of items here, but that's it, right?
Yeah.
So it felt rudimentary for me, like going from Horizon. I was the opposite, is why I'm telling this story. It's like of everyone who loved Zelda Tears of the Breath of the Wild, and then was like, oh, I can't go backwards to Horizon. I was just like, I can't go backwards to Zelda. Like it felt like and I don't mean this to be demeaning. It just felt like you're playing like almost like an adult centric game. It's got all these mechanics. It's so in depth of like, oh, you have like elements, all that kind of stuff. And then you go to play like almost like a Fisher Price game is what it felt like.
Yeah, I can see that. It's it does feel like my first RPG compared to
that's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
But the
puzzles
I can see what you mean.
Yeah, the puzzles
Yeah.
though made up for that.
The shrines were always good. I loved the shrines; they were brilliant fun. I loved all those. But also, I think with Forbidden West especially, and the same in Zero Dawn, you still have to collect things. You still have to collect your berries, your health. You still have, but never is that a chore because you're so drawn in to the world of Aloy and you are representing Aloy. You're straight away thinking, right, let's make sure I've got enough wood for arrows to craft my arrows, make sure I've got enough health. But it's done in, it almost seems, it makes you feel a bit of a boss because you've got all this, it feels quite technical, but it's not technical to do at all.
No.
You know, and they've even streamlined that in Forbidden West with your D-pad. So if you just sort of put some more health on, you haven't got to go in sub-menus, just held up. Your berries are there, and ding, 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 that's instantly made into health. You want to craft your arrows, L1 and press X. Ding, 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 your arrows are there. It's all done so streamed. So it's quite a technical RPG in that respect under the skin, but it's never hard to do or too complicated. They're balanced it so well. That's, I think, polished and balanced, I think, are the two words for that game.
So I want to ask you my second question from earlier, based on what you told me. With Horizon, with you playing Horizon, and you said something to the lines of going back and playing those Assassin's Creed style games, even the RPGs would feel a little bit muted now that you played Horizon. Do you feel like you aren't necessarily looking forward to Assassin's Creed? I think it's Shadows at the end of the year, the Japanese style, the Japanese setting of Assassin's Creed games after playing Horizon Forbidden West now.
To be honest, I was struggling to look forward to it before.
Okay.
I loved Origins. I jumped into Odyssey, and I couldn't get on with Odyssey. Now a lot of people loved Odyssey. To me, it was just a map full of question marks, and it felt, and I thought they took a break, changed it up with Origins, and I thought, right, now progress on that, and then I didn't get it, and then I played. Did
you play Valhalla?
Yeah, I put about 20 hours in Valhalla, and I just thought, this is rinse and repeat. It's not. And I know they've done quite a few of these games. I know they're quite popular. They sell well. People like them. But Zero Dawn, right? Brilliant game, brilliant story, new IP, introduced a load of new people to it. They could have done rinse and repeat on it. They didn't. They streamlined your controls. They streamlined the actions. They upgraded it. And don't get me wrong, I've done a few screenshots on our Discord. This game is gorgeous.
Absolutely gorgeous.
And I'm playing this in performance mode. So I'm playing it with a slightly less res on it, and it still looks stunning. And I put a couple of screenshots up the other day, and OG Tom from the show said, that's amazing, that looks gorgeous. And I said, yep. And that was in performance mode. That wasn't in,
in the high fidelity and all that kind of stuff.
So, to then make the second game, they could have gone rinse and repeat with this. Yes, you've got Aloy again. Yes, you're going to have to improve the story, but they just went all out. This story takes another jump forward. You go into a new area. There's new machines to fight. There's new enemies to fight. There's these branch and storylines. So it literally feels like Horizon 2.0. They've literally taken the first game and just ran with it into the second. It doesn't feel like a rinse and repeat, which I felt the Assassin's Creed have felt for a while. So yeah, going back to your question, for the new one, am I excited? No, I'll be honest with you, I have no interest in it whatsoever. I watched the trailer and at first I thought, this looks different. This looks quite good. And then I started seeing it a bit
gameplay
more, and I started thinking, this is the same again, just with a different area and a different look over the game. I thought, so no, for me to play that, I will wait and see how that releases. I mean, I even tried what was the shorter Assassin's Creed one they done? Mirage.
Oh no, I'm not the stealthy Assassin's Creed person, so no. I was out from the get go. I'm RPG or bust at this point.
I'll give them their due. That looks good. It's a good looking game. They've really brought it up to the latest gen standards. But I played about 3-4 hours of that, and I just thought it just feels soulless.
Yeah,
I know there's fans of that game, and fair play to you, but it just felt soulless. It's just a new way of playing Assassin's Creed. it's a new look of playing Assassin's Creed. I know they went a bit more stealthy with it, but
it's the retro style of Assassin's Creed, like with Assassin's Creed 1, 2, and 3. It goes back to that thing, but it didn't feel like it was innovative enough to where like it felt like its own entry. It felt like it was like, oh, we're going back to that style, but we're just going to give you that style. It's not like I think for me, you specifically, if I'm interpreting your words correctly, is like we wanted to see that next step up of like, if you're going back to that stealth based only Assassin's Creed, we still want to see how you take it to the next level. And I don't think they managed to hit that high again. It was more like, we're going to give those nostalgia fans that nostalgia feeling.
Yeah. And it's, I think sometimes, especially now with AAA games, if you're doing a big open world RPG, you can make it look as glorious as you want. But if it's not very well written, it will shine through. It needs to be a complete package. And sometimes you just find with the Assassin's Creed, with Mirage and Valhalla, the stories are it's a bit weak. It's your time in that game is filled up with side quests and fetch quests. Now, people like that. I'm not to say fair play to you. If you like that style of game, brilliant. But for me, I think where that changes up with Horizon, it's got that story that you want to see what happens next. You want to see where that next mission takes you. You want to see that clouded part of the map. That side mission you're doing that in Assassin's Creed you just do because you want to get a couple more levels up. In this, you want to do it because it will link you into the story. It will show you a new part of the map. It's very well designed and crafted, that game, and I think that's where a lot of these big RPGs fall away these days. You need a really well written story to pull you through.
I agree wholeheartedly. I want to ask you two questions based on what you just said. The first being is that I've always had a saying that Ubisoft swims in sevens. And it's like I do. I think it's swim in sevens. Like they put out a game, it's gonna be a 7 out of 10. The people who love it are gonna really love it because they know what they're getting. It's almost like they put out a Netflix style game to where like you just turn on Netflix, you're just turning your mind off. You want to enjoy TV, but very rarely when you watch like a high budget Netflix show are you thinking like, man, I waited a year for this. I've been salivating for this versus HBO, there's people who like after the last season of House of the Dragon ended, they're like, I can't wait for that next season. Like it's the same thing with The Last of Us with season 2. Everyone's excited about that. Hulu, to their credit and to FX's credit, they have this show called The Bear, which is a cooking show, very high drama, high serialized, very rare wooden show. People are salivating for that next season, which just came out today, by the way. I'm excited about that. Anyways, it's like those feel like appointment television, and like we have appointment games as well. There's levels to this, as I like to say. With Assassin's Creed, it feels like it's a Netflix style show where like they're putting it out. You're just going to turn your mind off. You're just going to play that game. And for the next couple of hours, that's what you're doing. You're just playing that game. It's like with Horizon, with Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us, God of War, just to name a few. You feel like it's appointment viewing. It's appointment gaming. It's where you're playing something and you're going to have that same level of fun or maybe more, but it's making you use that brain of yours. It's thought provoking. You're entrenched and entranced with what's going on in that narrative. It's like that. It feels like you're not playing a map. You're living in a world. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah, definitely. I think. And it's a shame as well, because I know I keep going back to Origins. I really connected with the character Bayek in that. And I wanted to go on and I wanted to see, and they took them years out or a couple of years out to really make that game and make a new one. I thought, this is a new Assassin's Creed. This is the way to go. This is the way to do it. And then when I played Odyssey, I thought the character was pretty bad written. I just didn't get on with him. It was almost he was trying to be funny and corny. And I just thought, why have you done this? You could have expanded on this and written a new story. And, it seemed a lot more serious in Assassin's Creed Origins. That deep story to it. And I really enjoy it. I just don't quite know where they went, that seems that they lost their way a bit again and thought, oh, this is the new way. We'll keep knocking the games out like this.
Here's my question from before, and because I was just talking and never got to the question. The question I want to ask you is like, do you think the IP of Assassin's Creed is holding back the gameplay of what they've built? And to elaborate a little bit, it's like, I feel like them always trying to have that Assassin's Creed elements where it's like you're the person in the future going back in time and all that kind of stuff. It's like, and them trying to tie that into the grand scheme of like 13 to 14 different games that, let's be honest, a lot of people do not care about that. It's the Assassin's Creed part about Assassin's Creed. They care about like the setting and like the actual role play isms of like the Assassin's Creed worlds. It's like, would Shadows feel 10% more intriguing to you? Maybe more percentage. If they just came out as a new IP and they just said, this is the Age of Shadows. Let's just call it the Age of Shadows, where you're just playing as a samurai. It's in a Ubisoft world still, but like none of the AC stuff is tied to this. You're just playing as this brand new character. Would that feel more enticing to you, or you like the Assassin's Creed part of it?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I definitely think the Assassin's Creed tag, because they seem to, like I say, they've went to open world, they tried the RPG style, but every so often they sort of think, oh, actually, it's still an Assassin's Creed. We've got to shoehorn all these Assassin's Creed tropes in. But if it's a new IP, maybe they could let the reins off a bit. They can prove they can do it graphically. Just get a really good written story down, and just like you say, don't call it Assassin's Creed. It could have been such a different game, but I think as soon as they call it Assassin's Creed, that's almost like they assume people want that bit of stealth, some fetch quests, and the leveling up. Not necessarily do people want that. There is different ways of making an open world RPG. So if they take the Assassin's Creed name off, maybe that'll inspire them to try something different. But yeah, I think you're definitely right. It does. It handbrakes them, definitely.
So I guess as a follow-up to that question then, based on what you just told me, if they're doing that with Star Wars this coming up fall, are you looking forward to that, or do you feel like that is still going to be the Ubisoft formula just with the Star Wars skin? It's like you're getting your new IP that we just talked about. It's a different IP. It still has that Ubisoft formula more than likely. Do you feel like that's going to scratch that itch of like what's missing, or do you feel like it's the Ubisoft formula now that's holding them back?
When I first watched that trailer, I missed the start. So I missed the Ubisoft bit. So I saw the female character, I saw her doing, and I thought, oh, hello, I'm quite liking this. And the sad thing is, when it got to the end of the trailer, I thought, okay, I'm on board with this. And then it flashed up Ubisoft Studios, and I thought, oh. And that sounds horrible, and I don't mean it, but straight away I thought, this is Assassin's Creed in space. Now, I'm intrigued because I think that they've had a big opportunity here to make a different style of game. They haven't got to put this open world fetch quest map over the top of this. You can still do that, but have a good story with it. Now, hopefully with Star Wars, the story will be decent. I mean, I would imagine they'd have Star Wars advisors on that, because I would imagine Disney isn't going to let quite a weak Star Wars story go, but I don't know. I hope, but I'm more intrigued with that than I am the new Assassin's Creed. But will I buy day one? No. I got a bit put off with the anchored back part of the story from Jabba the Hutt, which they've now chucked behind, which they show in the trailer, which I thought, oh, that'd be brilliant doing missions for him. And then suddenly they put it behind a paywall. So they haven't actually.
No, I didn't hear about that.
Oh, didn't you know that? So basically,
no, I didn't know that one.
Correct me if I'm wrong, community corrections, but as far as I know, rather than when you buy the top package for that, which is like $130, by the way, which is yes, expensive, right? Then they've made out that this was DLC. You get the DLC with it, but it isn't. This is part of the story. They haven't made an extra DLC. They've cut off part of that side of the story that you can only get if you know. Which got a big backlash. Whether it's fixed now, I'll hold my hands up and say sorry. If they've fixed it now, I don't know. But that was, I was going to pre-order this game, and when I saw that the Jabba the Hutt section is now put behind a paywall, which is actually part of the story anyway, I thought, one, that's lazy development, because if you do want to craft a DLC for it, then you can't cut off part of the story to charge extra. You either make a DLC or you don't, And I thought, so that stopped me from pre-ordering that. Whether they change it on release, because there was a big backlash on that, I don't know. But I thought, that is a naughty thing.
That is very ugly.
Especially when you've played it in the trailer to show people as well, so people have gone, "Oh yes, Jabba the Hutt's in there," and then they've obviously seen the reaction and thought, "Oh, we'll pretend that's DLC and earn a few extra bucks from it." Not for me.
Yeah, the young kids used to have a saying called catfishing. Are you aware of this?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that feels like the catfish this. To where like that
Definitely.
really feels like a catfish. I'm like, you promised Jabba the Hutt, and now Jabba the Hutt's DLC basically. And I'm like, that rubs me the wrong way, if I'm being honest.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's pivot a little bit, because I've been loving this conversation, but I had something in mind for this episode, and that I really wanted to ask you. I wanted to, in a way, have the trial of RGT. I'm
Oh, wow.
I'm putting you on the stand. I'm putting you on the stand, and as the defense attorney, I'm asking you several different questions. I want to get your honest feedback. I want to get to know you a little bit better, because like you and I have done several different shows, but there are questions I've always wondered about RGT, and this is my opportunity to ask said questions. So are you ready to be put to the trial?
You far away.
Okay. Yes. I like the confidence. So RGT.
Yes.
As it says in your government documentation, retro gaming, Tom. As it says in your documentation, what made you love retro gaming so much?
Well, I think what it was, I mean, obviously I'm a little bit older than you.
Just a wee bit. Just a couple of years.
1 or 2 years. But yeah, I grew up in the 80s and we used to have a thing in the UK called the 8-bit micros, which were little micro computers, which you could have games now on. And obviously the people who coded on them went on to be, household names, your David Darlands at Codemasters, and Stamp Brothers, who went on to do Rare, and everyone. I all started on Spectrums, and that's where it all began. And randomly, I'll jump this in. If anyone hasn't seen a documentary called Bedrooms to Billions, watch it, because it shows you how it started in the UK on the micros and went all the way through to the AAA you get today. But anyway, I digress. So I played all the way through till sort of mid-teens, I suppose, going through the systems. I went Spectrum to Master System to Mega Drive. Then I went to Amiga computer, and then I went to PS1. I went all the way through. Then I had a bit of a gap from gaming for a while. As you do in your mid-teens, and other things take priority, like going out with your friends and bits and pieces. And I had a bit of a gap there. And a certain
Mrs. RGT caught your eye around that time.
Oh yes, and I had a bit of a gap, and actually that was just after sort of Mega Drive era, I'd say. And actually, that was a current girlfriend I had at the time that wasn't Mrs. RGT.
Oh no!
But I'd actually had an operation in hospital, and she bought me to because I couldn't go out and go to work, so she bought me a PlayStation 1. Which is all her age at the time. That sort of got me back into it. And then I went through the systems, PS1, PS2, me and my best friend who's bald border on the Discord. We've played all through them, PS1, PS2, PS3. And I've always had those. But when we got to about PS3, PS4 era, I think it was early PS3, I think. Oh no, later PS3. Anyway, I had an accident and I came off my mountain bike, and I was off work for 4 or 5 months, broke a few bones.
Oh, no.
And for some reason, I'd already started looking at sort of retro stuff. And then I bought a magazine called Retro Gamer Magazine. And I started looking into thinking, well, hold on, because I had a PlayStation 1. I didn't have an N64. I had a PS2. I didn't have an OG Xbox. I had a PS3. I didn't have an Xbox 360. So I started thinking, well, wonder what games I've missed out on those. And at the time, this is quite a few years ago, those things were quite cheap. So, and then I started thinking about, I remember the obscure systems like an Atari Jaguar and Amiga CD32, and started purchasing all these consoles. And then it turned into a bit of a hobby, which I needed to actually build a separate room to put them all in. And things just progressed from there. And then I just fell in love with not necessarily retro. I play, obviously, from our previous conversation, I've got a PS5, a Series X, I've got a Switch. I play the current gen, but I always see the consoles for what they are. So I don't look at a Sega Saturn graphics now and think that looks terrible. I look at a Sega Saturn game and think, wow, that was good for the time. I always base it on the system it's on. And it became a bit of a family and friends hub. I built this, as everyone knows, on a Discord. It's called the Game Shed, but it's a sort of converted workshop from which I even record this in. I play in here and we meet up in here and we play games in evenings and have a few beers and have fun. And it's become a bit of a social hub, the Game Shed. And I think it's just gone from there. And I just found new systems and new games, and I'm always looking for stuff. And yeah, it's just been a very, very good distraction and a great hobby. But yeah, why I went retro, like I say, I just think it was because of this. At the time, when you're a kid, you would love to. If you had a kid and you got a PS1 for Christmas and your friend got an N64, you'd be thinking, I'd love to have both those. I'd love to have both those systems. And I think it's just me going back to now. I'm in a position where I can do that. I've now got 35 systems all set up, ready to play.
Dang.
Yeah. So they're all ready to roll and the TVs are set up, and so you can just put them on and play what you want when you want, and the games are there, and I think it's just that. I think it's that nostalgia, that childhood, dream of wanting to do that, and luckily enough, I've managed to do it now.
You're achieving the dream. You're living the dream.
Achieving the dream, yes, definitely.
So I was that kid you were talking about, of like, my best friend growing up, he had a Nintendo 64. I had the PlayStation 1. Like the grass sometimes was greener on the other side. But to be honest, a lot of the times we would end up playing my PS1 over his Nintendo 64, except for, a couple of exceptions, the Mario Karts of the world, as we thought, very foolishly, the superior kart racer, Diddy Kong Racing, was like what we like to play a lot more, because like in Diddy Kong Racing, you could fly and you had a boat. Yeah. So like there was a lot going on in that, but like we thought that was going to be the kart racer. We were like, we don't want this bootleg game called Mario Kart. He only rides the karts, and evidently we were on the wrong side of history there. But like I was that kid growing up that did want that console. He went from 64 all the way to Xbox, and I was just like, man, I love that Xbox that you're playing on, because it was our Halo machine. Like we would always play Halo together. And yet on my journey into gaming, it was always the PlayStation 1, the PS2, the PS3, and then a couple of handhelds in between those, like the Game Boy Advance and the PlayStation Vita. I'd never had like well, no, it was the PSP. I never actually owned a Vita before that. So I'm like, it was the PSP. So those were my two handhelds. And then everything else rotated around that PlayStation generation all the way up until that 360 generation, where I was a little more financially flexible and not like a kid, basically. Like, hey, please, Mom, can you buy me these things? And then like, those basically were my consoles, and now I'm fortunate enough to have pretty much everything under the sun. But unlike you, I think like the difference here is like I haven't had that desire yet to go back and play the best 10 gems of I guess you could say, and take the road not traveled. And I think you're doing a really cool thing by living the road not traveled. And the only thing is that an expensive hobby?
When I started, no. I mean, there's games I've got in my collection which will go in the thousands now, quite easily in the thousands. And I didn't pay that. I paid a few bucks for, It's you learn we've got other collectors in the Discord, Digital Monkery and Rose Space Monk, and that they're collectors. Rose Space Monk more on his Dreamcast. He's going for a full Dreamcast collection, but he'll tell you the same thing. Games go in peaks and troughs, and genres will come and go, and consoles will come and go. So, I will buy games. I mean, one of the weirdest ones I'd probably say is Atari Jaguar.
Oh,
the games for those can really go up and down. They're you just have to catch it at the right time. I mean, I keep wanting to buy Alien versus Predator, which is probably arguably the best game on that system. There's not many games on that system.
I was just about to say, I'm like, I don't think there was a whole lot.
No, and don't get me wrong, the system is pretty naff. But I love these older systems that are a bit niche and a bit random and didn't do very well. I like to try and find what was good on that system. But sometimes you'll get 1 month and you'll look and that game's 60, 70 pounds and you think, oh, that's achievable now. I'll get that in a couple of weeks, and then you'll go back and it's 120. So they peak and trough, and sometimes you only need one person on eBay to sell it for 300 because some idiots press buy, and suddenly everyone else's is at it. So you have to. But it can be. I mean,
it's almost like you're playing the stock market, like.
Yeah, when I first started collecting, when I decided what to collect, when I decided what I wanted to collect, I didn't realise I didn't know it was a thing at the time. I was buying these old consoles and playing them, and then I sort of outgrew the house. When did the switch flip in your head to where you're like, oh, this is my hobby now. I'm a collector. Like, I'm a genuine collector. Well, I don't know if as much as I realised it was a hobby, or whether I realised I had a problem. But the thing is, I mean, Mrs. RGT, bless her, she's so supportive. She loves it. She comes and she was never a big gamer as a kid. She's sort of become a gamer since being with me. Okay. Been together 22 years. She's become a gamer through that. Only certain games, not but she loves playing. And I mean, I've got, I don't know, 3,000 games now, I suppose, maybe more. But she'll still buy me games for my birthday and Christmas I haven't got.
That's sweet.
She'll sneak in here when I'm not around, and she'll look up games and see what I've got, what I haven't, and she'll find what she thinks I like, and she'll hit my friends up. Oh, does he want this new RPG, or does he want? So yeah, she's very supportive, and she loves that I have a hobby, I think. So yeah, it's nice. Yeah, I'm lucky with that. Yeah, I did say to her once, do you think I'm a bit strange? Because and she was like, no, I love it. She said it's brilliant.
That's so sweet.
And I don't. Some people say, oh, what an investment. I don't buy it for an investment. Yes, I've said there's games worth thousands of pounds. I'll never sell them games.
You'll never sell them?
No. Well, I'll tell you a funny story. When my daughter was, a lot younger, she was about 6 years old, I think. And she said to me, all your games you've got, Dad. I said, yeah. I said, one day this is all going to be yours, all this. She went, wow. I said, yeah. She said, do you know what? She said, I'm going to keep this as a shrine in your memory. I said, wow.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. And that soon changes though. And I said, that's very sweet, you darling. And she said, wow, what do you think all this is worth? And I won't
Oh, no.
I gave her a ballpark figure for the time. I'm talking over 10 years ago. And straight away she went, oh no, I'd sell that and get a Ferrari.
Oh no.
I was like, oh, thanks for that. Yeah. So people's heads soon turn when they think of the value of things. But yeah, I don't do it for the value. I just do it for I still have as much fun now finding a NES cartridge in a shop that I want as I do buying a PS5 or an Xbox game. It's the thrill of the hunt, as finding new games, as finding stuff you never had. And like you say, I've gone through games I'd never played. The last 18 months I've been playing Halos. I never played Halos back in the day. I never had an Xbox. So I'm up to 4 now. I've been playing through those. Absolutely loved it. I'm now playing all those games I missed out on. And I've really, pushed myself to play all these different genres and different systems. And I'm now starting to feel I'm sort of getting the best at what these consoles had to offer. And brilliant fun. Brilliant fun.
And so 2 questions. My first one is like, how do you how do you juggle your time between playing the retro games that you never played before and also getting to like some of the high premiere AAA or indie experiences of today? And then my second question is like, what advice would you give to inspiring collectors, people who decide they want to collect retro games?
Going to the first question, it is hard to juggle time. I mean, I've been on the podcast now a couple of years, so with the time organising podcast events and bits and pieces and stuff we do, that takes up a lot of my time. And also, I like to try and play. We tend to aim more at the modern stuff. We do talk retro, but we tend to aim more at the modern stuff. So I tend to always have something ticking along in the background. For instance, for Forbidden West, something like that, always ticking in the background. My retro stuff comes and goes, but what I normally try and do is, I've got my brother-in-law, my best friend, and quite often they'll say, "You're free Saturday night, fancy a game night in the shed, and we'll have 6-7 hours in here with some snacks, with a couple of beverages, and we just go through games we haven't played or games. The Halo series I'm playing through with my brother-in-law.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, he's a chef, so he works weekends, especially summertime. He works in a seaside restaurant, so he's busy. But as soon as he gets that, when I'm on a rotation day off, so when they line up for the next day, he'll say, "Fancy a shed night, play some more Halo," and we've been working our way through the Halo series together. So we jump in and out of the retro as time permits with friends at weekends, and then I've always got that modern game ticking away in the background, which I sort of play as to go along with the podcast, basically.
So hold on, before you go to the second question, I wanna ask you a follow up based on what you just said. It's like, that was me and my best friend. We played through the Halo games together, and that's one of my fondest childhood memories. Especially, like, I guess that's why in my heart of hearts I'm still a gamer today, and that I loved playing Halo with him, whether or not we were going through the campaign together, or also like, maybe playing was it Blood Gulch? Was it Blood Gulch? The sand level. Anyways, we play that against each other all the time, and maybe sneak a peek at each other's screen and such. But like, yeah, we would play those games together. But I want to ask you about the snacks. I think we're skipping something important here. What snacks are y'all feasting on these bro nights?
Well, you'd call them chips, but we call them crisps.
Okay.
We'd normally have peanuts, bits and pieces like that. We did. We've made two mistakes with snacks. We tried the Burger King Doritos. Me and my brother-in-law a few
They
months
make
ago.
Burger King Doritos?
They are absolutely vile. Do not eat them. They are absolutely vile, to the stage where we tried, because I think the Game and Graham of our Discord had them and was like, "These have made me like literally sick."
Oh,
So
wow.
straight away I thought, right, I need to try it.
You're one of those people who's like, I heard the disclaimer, I need to try it.
We had 2 or 3 of these each and went, "My God, these are vile." And we had to put the bag outside of the game shed because it was actually making the game shed stink.
Wow.
The taste of them was revolting. And then the other week, Bull Borders is a bit of a spice head. He likes his spicy stuff. And they used to do these sort of flaming hot Doritos. They've now made these super hot ones. And he finished them off. I could not eat them. They blew my head off. But we'd basically have, like you say, chips. We'd have peanuts and stuff. But sometimes if we get together early enough, we'll get a takeaway. We'll have a meal in here. We'll probably have a pizza or something like that. And then we'll jump into some games. Yeah. So it depends what time we sort of meet up. But 9 times out of 10, it's chips and nuts and bits and pieces like that we can nibble on as we're playing and soak the beer up.
What's your brew of choice?
I'm into my craft ales. So I like things from hazy IPAs right through to sours I love all the different ales they produce nowadays. I mean, we have good brewers over here, but you guys in America are smashing it with your craft ales. You've got everything. I mean, I had Mrs. RGT got me some import ones last year and from America, and that was, I think it was double chocolate vanilla ice cream stout she got me. And these things are mental what you boys doing over there, but they're brilliant. I love all the different ales, and I couldn't just drink the same beer all night. I like all the sort of hazy IPAs and bits like that. I enjoy. And if it does go on late, then yeah, maybe a gin and tonic to finish the gaming session off with.
Getting a little heavier there. I like that. I'm more of a liquor guy than I'm a beer guy. So I'm like, I don't know a whole lot of beers, even though I used to work for a beer distribution place like a long time ago. Like but I only knew the mainline beers that we distributed. I haven't dove into ales or IPAs or anything like that. But like, yeah, it's always so fascinating because I'm like, I always wonder if people's snack choices evolve as they grow up. Like, like as they get older, do we, as we hang out with people and maybe game or game and snack, do our choices evolve, or are we always going to be chips people? Basically almost like teenagers that you imagine hanging out in the basement and just eating chips and playing games, wiping your hands off on your pants, basically, and getting back on the controller.
I'm not one extreme to the other, because if we have friends around at home, we'll have olives, and we'll have some lovely cured meats, and we'll have some nice bread and some cheese and some
a charcuterie board, if you will.
Exactly. I'm in the shed. I'm straight back to when I'm 10 years old. I'm big what's at chips. It's all on my fingers. I've got wet wipes so I don't make the controllers filthy. Peanuts. Straight back to how I've always been. So yeah, I think I'll go back to being a child when I walk into the game shed.
It's like as soon as you walk through the basically the mantle of the shed, you're like, okay, I'm back. This is the inner me is back, versus when you go into the house, you gotta be Mr. RGT at that point.
Yeah. But also going to your second question, tips for collectors these days, or people who want them to be a collector. I always say collect for what everyone else is collecting for.
Okay.
So, or collect where there is a big base of games for. So, for instance, at the moment, they've started creeping up a little bit, but PS3, Xbox 360, you can get a massive collection of them for part and hardly any money. And you can get the big hitters as well. You can find some good exclusives. I mean, the PS3 and the Xbox 360 are loaded with exclusives. You can even jump back a gen, go for the original Xbox, PS2, thousands of games, especially for the PS2. You can pick up a lot of heavy hitters for not a lot of price, and try and work it like that. So I've always tried to be not one step ahead, but one generation ahead of what people are expecting to collect for. So when I bought my Super Nintendo games, when I bought my Mega Drive games, I was paying $5-10 for a game, which people are now paying $30-40 for a game. Some people are paying hundreds of bucks for games. But so I always try and collect at what's not that popular at the time. So, my PS3 and Xbox 360 collection is quite big. Of the last couple of years, I've really hit the original Xbox quite hard. That side of the collection's getting big because
was there a lot of original Xbox games? I felt like the number was smaller, right?
I think if you go for a full collection, that's about 900.
Oh wow, that's huge.
Yeah, but if you went, I think that's worldwide. If you go worldwide for PS2, you're looking
thousands.
Yeah, 10,000. I think PAL, if you went for PAL, the UK or European PAL, you're looking at about 1,900 PS2 games.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but I mean, the thing about the original Xbox and the 360 is there's so many exclusives on them systems, and you won't play them anywhere else. So I've predominantly aimed at the exclusives and then sort of gone out from there. That sometimes someone will say, "Oh, that if it's a cross-platform game, I say, oh, that version's better on the Xbox 360." So I'll pick that up and try it and see if it's better than the PS3. But predominantly, I'll just try and hit all exclusives and the games that you can only play on that system. And especially games that they never forwarded on with a different. Didn't take the series forward, especially one-off games. And once I've delved into the Xbox library, you realise how many there is on that system.
Oh, it's stupid amount.
And some great games as well, brilliant games. But yeah, that'd be my main tip. Try and collect it at the time is cheap and other people aren't necessarily collecting for. So anything from that sort of, I mean, your PS1 games now, some of those are creeping up some good prices. But yeah, PS2, Xbox, you can still get pretty good. PS3, Xbox 360, apart from a few which are expensive, you've got a massive library. You can get a lovely collection up on there from right through your bio shops and Gears of Wars all the way through. It's a great collection to be had there for not a lot of money.
Do
Even
you? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say even the systems you can pick up cheap.
Yeah.
I think the only issue you used to have is controllers.
Mm-hmm.
And original controllers are obviously running out now, and they're getting expensive secondhand. But there's so many good third-party controllers now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've got a Retro Fighters PS3 controller, which also works on a PS2 and a PS1.
That's cool.
Yeah, you get a lot of the controller dongle to put in your PS1 or PS2, so it's wireless, or you get the Bluetooth dongle for your PS3. Superb controller. So you can pick these controllers up, and it covers you for all your different systems. So yeah, there's ways around it. So
I want to ask you, like, do you feel like you are worried about like the Xbox 360 store closing? Because I think that was in the news recently. And do you feel like that's going to make the price of all these Xbox 360 games go massive?
Certain games, yes. Certain games that had limited prints physically, they've already been going up for the last couple of years. Some which I probably will never get, but then there's other games which never actually got a physical. So I think the Hydro Thunder game, I think, was only.
I think that was only digital, right?
Only digital. So I think that's a shame that if you haven't got that on your system, will you ever be able to play it? Do you know what I mean? That's where I find that's quite sad. That's a shame that they, certain games, that's where we're now starting to see, because they were the first generation of digital, and we're now starting to see when these stores close, some of these games are going to be gone. They might be saved in, video game, historians and stuff will keep the ROMs for them, but actually as a game that you can purchase and play, that's the thing that worries me the most. But yes, definitely for those that had physicals and digitals, the ones that are now for store, there is going to be price increase, especially on a few of them hidden gems that are. I think there was one I went to buy the other day. I can't think what it was. It's a black and white racing game.
It's kind of like that right now with the DS, right? Like the 3DS and the DS, where they went like stupidly high after Nintendo closed their shop.
Yeah, and some of them haven't come down. Some of the prices of those games are. Oh, yeah.
The Nintendo gamers are used to prices staying up and never coming down. They wouldn't have got a discount anyways.
Oh, I know. And that makes me laugh. I mean, when people say to me, current gen games are $70, I've still got games with price labels on Super Nintendo at $69.99. Nintendo was always good at pricing their games. They've always been good at pricing them. But yeah, it is worrying when these stores close, because I think there's going to be a lot of good games that people will never be able to experience gone.
Okay, all right. So you're still on the stand here. So I'm gonna ask you a series of questions, and I'm gonna give you two options. I want you to tell me which one is probably gonna be your mummy. All right. Okay. Am I saying that right? Mummy. Oh
yeah, I love the way you say it, because it's almost like you're trying an English accent. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
mummy.
I have still have the Texas drawl there, so I'm like, it's like you. I was about to ask you to say the Assassin's Creed game you were saying earlier again, because I love the way you say Mirage. I was like, I love the accent. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's so cool, man. Okay, so. Which one's going to be a better game? And which one's going to be a better game? And which one's probably going to be more closely to your mummy? Star Wars Outlaws or Indiana Jones and the Great Circle?
Oh, no. Cool, that's a tough one. Oh. Now, I do like my Star Wars universe, but it has got Ubisoft at the front of it, which does put me off a bit. Now, for the Indiana Jones, apart from a few games that have been out over the years, it's one of them that back in the day, the licensed games were never that great.
No.
I think there's one good point and click game. I can't remember the name, but Rose Space Monk knows, because he asked me he told me about playing that the other day. But I could never play FPS games. I used to get motion sickness from FPS games. Oh. Since I've gone back and played the Halos, I've started coming around to first-person games. So now I'm quite up for playing first-person games, and that Indiana Jones looks pretty good.
I can understand that.
I even though George won't like this, I am swaying towards Indiana Jones rather.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
I got my worries about both because Ubisoft swims to sevens, so Star Wars has me a little worried. And then on the Indiana Jones side, I like machine games. I like the Wolfenstein games quite a lot, but I knew what to expect with Wolfenstein. It was like it's not quite Gears of War, but it feels like Gears of War meets Doom, and it feels like it's right in the middle of that line. With Indiana Jones, though, it's sort of like I haven't been hands on with this, so I could be completely spot wrong, but like. The trailers almost look VR-ish to me in a way that
I can see that. Yeah.
Because it's first person, you had like the whip motion and everything like that. It almost looked VR-ish in a way that kind of like I haven't played like a 10 out of 10 VR game yet. So, and I know they exist out there, but like VR still feels like it's at its infant stage yet, and we're still waiting for like the big boom of like all these high level VR games. So I'm a little worried about Indiana Jones in a way, but I trust machine games, and then I'm worried about in a different way Star Wars Outlaws, but I also like the IP of Star Wars, so I'm like I'm a little worried about both of those. But I'm excited though.
I think with what George was saying the other week, I think it's a good ploy going Indiana Jones first person, because as soon as you go third person, straight away you're Uncharted, Tomb Raider, you're going to be compared to him. And you know my love for Uncharted. I think this is probably why I'm swaying towards Indiana Jones. But if they can get anywhere near an Uncharted, a lot of first person Uncharted, then I think they're onto a winner. But you've got to get the balance right. I mean, this is probably out of their comfort zone a bit because it's going to be story heavy.
Okay.
It's Indiana Jones, so you've got to have a good story there. That's got to have a strong story with that, especially for new and old people who are fans of the movies from years ago who want to play it, and bringing a new audience in. I think that story's got to be strong. But from what I've seen, I think it looks quite good. They seem to have got the essence of, what Indiana Jones is about, that sort of style. So yeah, I'm quite looking forward to it. I am worried about Star Wars. I don't think they've helped themselves with this ridiculous DLC and overcharging on the complete game.
It's cool that Star Wars like Indy is going to be on Game Pass day one though.
Yes, yeah, definitely. That is, we're not all, not everyone is in favour of Game Pass. A lot of people think it, but if you've got Games Pass and that's dropped on there day one, you're going to be excited and you're going to play it. You're going to go. You're not going to, you're going to shell out that money straight away. Obviously, you're paying for Games Pass over the year, but you're not going to be shelling out. Yeah, but you're not shelling out day one, so it gives you that opportunity to play. But yeah, I'm less nervous about Indiana Jones than I am Star Wars. I'm just hoping, we saw EA had trouble with Star Wars, the Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
Then when they went with Cal, they really then changed it up, and it was brilliant.
I want to hear you say his last name because I've been that English accent. It's fire saying his name.
Is it Cal Kestis?
Cal Kestis?
Cal Kestis. Cal Kestis. There we go.
Yeah.
And I think once they changed it up, they tried something different, and it stuck and it worked. And I'm hoping that's what Ubisoft will do. I hope they don't do a Star Wars Assassin's Creed. I'm hoping they do something different. Good story. I mean, a trailer looked a quite good story, I must admit. I quite liked the character. I thought it all looked pretty good. So
the space fights looked better than the Starfield. Like, as far as like integrating from like getting all the way off of a planet in just right into flying, it looked seamless. In Starfield, there was 2 loading screens just to fly your ship.
Oh no, yeah, I did put a few hours into Starfield, and that just wasn't for me. I think if you're a big Fallout fan and you want Fallout in space, you're all over it. But for what I wanted from a space game, that wasn't for me. But no, you're right. It looks better in that regard. So fingers crossed, let's hold out hope, and hopefully they'll see sense over this ridiculous pricing scheme they've got going, and it'll end up being a good game.
All right. So next question: which one's going to be your mummy, or which one do you project is going to be your mummy? I should say, Astrobot or Mario and Luigi Battleship?
Oh, straight away, Astrobot.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, I like some Mario games. Obviously, we say Mario, not Mario over here.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
But I've never been a big Mario fan. I could take
I'm
or
the
leave.
same.
the games. I was more Sonic the Hedgehog. I grew up with the Segas, so I was always Sonic. I love Sonic. But when it comes, I still think now the Astrobot games are so underrated.
I think they're the premium of like 3D platformers now.
Yeah, when I first started playing the first game in VR, George used to give me so much stick. I'm not playing that kiddie's Astrobot. I said, you're missing out. He would not put it on his VR for about a year. When he eventually played it, he was all over it. I said, I told you, this game is so well put together. The music is fantastic. Everything is brilliant. And he's now an Astrobot fan thanks to me. But I love Astrobot. I think, without doubt, I can't wait for the new game.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but he didn't want to play the kiddie VR game that was Astrobot, but he's now in love with, I think, Luigi's Mansion and what was the other game he fell in love with? Was it Mario Odyssey? Like he was playing hardcore when he got his Switch. Yeah. Like those are more adult centric than Astrobot at this point.
I used to. That was before I was presenting on the show, but I used to message in with questions and stuff, and he said I was playing Astrobot. Oh my god, what are you playing Astrobot for? And I was like, you wait till you play it, you're missing out. And then when he did play it, he loved it. And I think, you sometimes get certain devs know how to use a system, and yes,
they know how to use that PS5, man. They know
how to use that PS5. I mean, if you play, we got the Astrobot built in on our PS5s. You play that with a Pulse 3D headset on, your DualSense in your hands. That's the whole experience. It sounds brilliant on the 3D audio, the triggers, and then you get like the hailstorm through the controller. And I still think now, this is what I say to everyone, this biggest leap in this current generation has been the DualSense for me.
Oh, wow.
That's the thing that has shone out for me over everything, because more companies are using it now. Forbidden West, you get it in there. I played a bit of the Avatar game. They're using it with your adaptive triggers, the sensations. I think it really adds to gaming with 3D audio and the controller. It's that you can really get lost in worlds now. And I just think
it's the immersion.
That's the word I was looking for. Immersion. That's the one. And I just think, Astrobot games, they give you that. They're fantastic games. Brilliant.
Oh yeah, especially when you pull stuff and you feel like the resistance and like the trigger when you're pulling like a little like yarn thing back or such like that. Oh, I remember it's so fun.
When I got my PS5, I was playing Astrobot, and a friend of mine at work said to me, I was explaining what the DualSense done. They were like, no, they're not gamers, but they said, I can't believe it does that. I said, yeah. I said, you get a hailstorm and you can hear it and feel it through the controller. No, don't. So anyway, I recorded it. And just the control on my hand that was going all through the control, all over the. He was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "You can shake and tip things," and he was like, "How does it do it?" I said, "Well, it's just called haptic feedback, but it's quite impressive how it does it." And that obviously Astrobot uses that to the maximum.
Yeah, I think they really kill it, especially with like the sounds, the fan, the dual sense of like the right triggers and left triggers. Because I'm like, there's a portion where you're walking on in the Astrobot, like built-in Astrobot, where you're walking on like a metal surface and you hear that in the controller where it goes. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, and
I'm like, oh, it's so cool. Yeah,
and sand, and same with like in Forbidden West, the sounds coming through the controller. You got that speaker. I mean, the DualSense is is a proper bit of kit with when you think what you've got with it, with microphone, speaker, adaptive triggers, haptic feedback, touchpad. It's a brilliant bit of kit.
It's the only controller in the market that I'm okay paying full price for, if I'm being honest. Because like I did not, and no surprise here, I didn't feel that way with the Switch because like the sticks would drift like all the time on all the Joy-Cons I bought. The Joy-Cons always felt like a cheap like piece of technology. It's like the way they were built, not the technology in them. I think they're actually phenomenal for like the motion tracking and all that, but like it felt cheap. And then like the Nintendo Pro controller, I think is phenomenal. It holds a charge all day, except I hate the A/B button placement. I will die on this hill. I hate that the B buttons on the bottom and the A buttons on the side. I hate it. Absolutely despise it. But
I'll have a spell on my Switch and play it for a while. I'll go back to my PS5.
Xbox? Oh.
I'll go back to my PS5 and that'll be no problem. But if I go from PS5 and then go play my Switch, I keep pressing the wrong button.
Yeah.
That's the other way around. But, you get used to it after a while. But yeah, definitely, I don't like the placement like that.
Oh, man, it messes my mind up on Xbox because, like, Xbox and Nintendo have that same buttons. It's just in different ways. Like, X is where Y should be on Xbox, and then A and B are flipped. So all the face buttons are flipped on Xbox and vice versa on the Switch, and it just messes my mind up. And I'm like, I don't want to play it anymore. I just don't want to play. It got so bad that I, like, on my Switch, I bought a 8-bit Moto to where I basically, it's a Bluetooth adapter that allows me to play my PS4 controller on my Switch.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
So I just remapped the X and Y button on that, and like it legitimately was the only way I could play like Fire Emblem and all those other games at that point, because like it drove me bananas to have like that controller placement and then going back and forth between different consoles. It's like, and now it's going to be worse because like I have the Steam Deck, and the Steam Deck it's a handheld, and it has like the Xbox button placement system. Oh, no. And so going back and playing that Switch would be like, it would be very much like going back almost 5 years and trying to rework my brain to get Switch mode now.
Oh, yeah, definitely not, I don't think.
So my next question with you, I know we're running a little long on time here, and I know it's getting late over the UK. My next question is, like, over the horizon, you have several different games you're looking forward to. You're reserved to Star Wars Outlaws. You also have, you still want to play Indiana Jones. Are there games on the horizon that you do, or that you are looking forward to? Are you looking forward to an Avowed by Xbox, or Stalker 2, Astrobot? What is the other ones that are coming out for Nintendo? I think it's Mario and Luigi. Metroid's next year. I think Zelda's next year. What was the other one that was this year for Nintendo?
I can't remember now.
It was like I think was Donkey Kong. No, that was next year as well, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's next year as well. I can't remember now.
Yeah, I thought there was something big this year other than Mario and Luigi. But anyways, is there something off the top of your head that you remember that you're looking forward to?
Definitely the Indiana Jones. That really caught my eye.
Okay.
When I was watching the showcase, I thought that was a good selection in there. And I know some of them are 2025, but I thought there was a good selection for everyone. Mm-hmm. So, they've really improved Flight Simulator. You had
George is gonna love that. I was like,
oh god,
George and about 10 other people are really gonna love Flight Simulator.
Fable caught my eye.
Hopefully that's next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's only in the last couple of years I actually played Fable. My original I've played 1 and 2 so far. Really enjoyed those. I've really got I thought the atmosphere and the way they get you into that world's really well done. So, and I thought, I've limited Fable knowledge, but from the trailer, it felt very Fable to me.
Yeah, it did.
Now, a younger generation that's never played Fable, they might not quite get that. But I think if you've played the original Fable games, it felt a Fable game. So I was very excited for that.
I think the younger generation were almost comparing like the tone of the upcoming Fable game to Shrek. And I was like, I like that comparison because it is very much still the fairy tale, almost like humor kind of like comparison there. I was like, I like that.
Also, even the Perfect Dark, I think that's...
Oh, that looks good, man. That looks really good.
Yeah, and I mean, I've only had very limited playtime of Perfect Dark, but it's maybe what I've got both the other two games. That's maybe what I'll go back and play those right away, see them through. And although I've said this before, I think sometimes IPs can be too old, that if the audience isn't originally there. But I think if you do it correctly, you can bring a new audience in. But sometimes I think those fans of Perfect Dark, those fans of Fable from right back in the day, now they've seen this, that's something you get really excited about. Oh, it's a new one of those, I think of games I played way back in the day, and if they made a new one now, I'd be like, oh yes, so there's that excitement there, and I've sort of felt that a bit with these Xbox games coming out. So that's
Nintendo's made a whole business off of that nostalgia. Oh, there's a new Luigi's Mansion, there's a new Pikmin. Oh, Metroid, yay!
Another 10 million consoles sold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's kind of what they've been relying on.
So yeah, but same again from PlayStation side. Astrobot, very excited for,
Okay.
and even longer term, it isn't going to be next year, I don't think either. But you've got the Wolverine game coming.
Oh yeah.
I'm very interested to see. I think this is going to be a critical game for Insomniac, because if you make it to Spider-Man, people are going to say, "Oh, you've just reskinned Spider-Man." So it's got to be. You've got to have that real good story and good setting and good graphics that they've done in a Spider-Man game, but it's got to be its own thing. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have that Wolverine feel and separate it from the other games they've done. So I'm quite excited about that, and I think there's the new Spider-Man game as well is in development, but that's way off. But that's been leaked as well, isn't it? So
yeah, I know they canceled one. It was the multiplayer Spider-Man. So well, I can't imagine they're not doing Spider-Man 3 at this point. But
no, not at all.
But
definitely,
I do want to ask: is there any games that have come out this year that you feel like you missed out on that you are going to go back and play? Like maybe like a Final Fantasy VII Part 2, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. Was it Grand Blue Fantasy, Tekken? What am I missing? Prince of Persia. Is there something there that?
Well, that was going to be my first one. Prince of Persia, I'm going to pick up. I've really liked the look at it, and that's another one that seems to have Ubisoft have just booted this game out there, not thinking nothing of it. And they've ended up making a brilliant game. There weren't much song and praise about it at the time. They just released this game they were making in the background. It ends up being really well received game. So I'm all over that sort of Metroidvania sort of style. Yeah, I'm going to get that. And also, I think going back to right at the start of the show when you were saying about has this year been, have you found it, quite hard to find games? It has pushed me into different genres. I was never a Final Fantasy player. I've sort of started getting a bit intrigued with Final Fantasy. I've had a couple of goes at playing the remake, the first part of the remake.
Final Fantasy VII remake. How you like it?
Story and setting, fantastic.
For
a PS4 game, that looks good for a PS4 game. I struggle a bit with the combat and the different things you use on your combat, but my brother-in-law's a Final Fantasy nut, so he's showing me how to play. But I just want to play the story because I'm quite intrigued. So it's pushed me into not having the games, it's pushed me into other genres. And that Grand Blue game has really turned my eye a bit. I quite like the look of that.
Grand Blue Fantasy Relink.
Yeah, that's given me. And then I've tried other sort of action RPGs. I've delved into Valkyrie Elysium this year, and
are you going to try Stellar Blade? Is that up your alley, or is
I think so. It reminds me a bit of Bayonetta. It looks like a bit of a Bayonetta game.
I get that vibe too.
Yeah. But it's same again. It's probably a game that would have passed me by. I would have bought 3 years down the line on a cheap price to give a go. But because of how things are at the moment, I think that's probably that and Prince of Persia I will probably purchase soon, I think, to play.
I think that's indicative of like how I feel about this year, at least. It's like I don't think it's a bad year. I think we're just coming down from the greatest years of all time. Combine that with like none of these feel like must buys immediately, especially considering I'm not a Final Fantasy person that like historically I guess you could say I tried the Backstreet Boys Final Fantasy game. Basically, I think that was 15, right?
15, yeah.
Yeah. And I was mixed about it. And then I played through 16 and felt very mid about it. And then, yeah. And I liked the old school JRPGs that were like 1, 2, and 3, but these are completely different games. So, yeah, like I'm hesitant to play 7, but I already own 7 because, I was given 7. So, like, I don't know. I'm sort of trying to figure out like what's next as far as like big releases there, and on the games that I did miss, because I do have Grand Blue and I think it's a decent game. I do think it's a wait for a sale though kind of game. It's like I feel like that's indicative of a lot of what's come out this year. It's like I would say Like a Dragon's good, but if you enjoyed the first one, play the second one maybe at a sale. because it is a lot of what you played in the first one. Prince of Persia is good, but if you can get that thing for like 20 to 30, I guess you would say pounds over there. Like, I think that's the sweet spot for this type of game. You know, like Tekken. I think Tekken's great if you like fighting games. If you don't like fighting games, but you want to dive into this, please wait for a sale, because nothing about this latest Tekken is going to change your mind about what you've already played in the past. So I think this is a wait for the sale year, almost more if you're not a Final Fantasy 7 person.
There's not many buy on day one releases this year. There's not many must-haves I need that day one. There's many that you think, oh, that looks good, I'll wait. You know, so it's definitely that kind of year. But you know, it's when you actually look back at what is released and what's actually coming, it does tend to sway me back to actually try something that I wouldn't have normally bought. Hence, like Grand Blue and bits and pieces. So there's definitely games I'm gonna jump into after Forbidden West.
You loved Harvestella. Have you looked at any other Square Enix games that have released recently? And
well, the next one I tried was Valkyrie Elysium. I tried after Harvestella, and that was pretty good. Quite enjoyed that.
What was the unicorn game? I was going to recommend that to you. It's like, you have a computer in front of you, because I'm a little far away from my computer at the moment. Look up Unicorn Square Enix game.
Let's have a look.
And I think this might be a little bit up your alley. But anyway,
Unicorn Overload, was it?
Unicorn Overlord, that's it. I was just like, that might be something up your alley. It feels more indie, but it's made by I think Square, right?
Yeah, I think that's another one of them where they went for that stage of knocking out these mid-tier sort of RPGs, didn't they? I mean, they were, 2022, 23, they were releasing no end of these, from, Octopath Traveler up through to, Harvestella, Valkyrie Elysium, loads of these. So, but
everything.
Some of them have been, like I say, Harvestella I loved.
Are you an Octopath Traveler person?
I haven't played it. It's that I always struggle with turn-based games.
Okay.
But the setting and graphics look, I love that style of that sort of 2.5D pixels in a modern sort of look and background. I think that art style is really good. Yeah, it's good. It's good. So it's definitely something I think same again, because of this year, definitely something I might try, because there's two of those out now, isn't there?
Yeah, both are on Game Pass, by the way, if you're a Game Pass member.
Brilliant. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. And so both of those are on Game Pass. I was also going to tell you, I don't know if you remember the PlayStation subscription, as far as like the tiered ones. Try out Dave the Diver if you haven't already.
I keep meaning to try that, because I played through, on your recommendation, I played Dredge. I played that right. Loved Dredge.
Yeah.
Played that through. I literally done that in about 10 days, just playing in the evenings.
It's so good.
Something fresh and new and artistic and brilliant. Yeah, so Dave the Diver, I'm definitely going to try. Yeah, now, especially now it's on there, I can just download and play.
Yeah, it's more of a roguelike than Dredge. But there are similarities. Both of them, you're underwater, or at least on the water, and you're hunting for materials. In this case, like on Dave the Diver, you're hunting actual fish and such like that. You can increase like your guns and harpoons and stuff while you're in the ocean. Mm-hmm. And then you take it back to your sushi shop, and then you have to you managing the sushi shop. You can serve customers yourself. You can hire people You're also getting more exotic fishes, and that you can fight against. Godzilla is the latest free expansion. So I'm like, Godzilla is a part of this universe. Dredge is also a part of this universe. I'm like, brilliant. I think you'd really like Dave the Diver, but let me know what you think. Everyone, before we go, though, RGT is going to have a list of people he wants to read out, because these are special people in our community. RGT, do you have that list ready?
Oh, I'm now getting this list up. So,
all right. So while he feels for time, everyone, you can hit us up, and you can hit us up using several different methods if you want to reach out. And I saw some people reached out to me in the Discord. You can reach out to a lot of us in Discord, give us recommendations for shows, topics. You can just ask us about different games that we're playing. You can also reach us through the Instagram, the UCP Instagram, and our personal ones that are listed in the episode show notes. And you can also hit us up at, what's the email, RGT?
Unofficialcontrollerpodcast.com or questions at unofficialcontrollerpodcast.com, or we've got Instagram or Twitter. You can jump on there, or like you say, the Discord, Seb. So jump on there and you can chat about anything you want on there, from games to anything, food, the lot. So
there you go.
That's all on there. Right, do you want me to read the list out now?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Right, these are all our subscriber members, absolutely fantastic people.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, who put their, hands in their pockets every month to, help contribute to the show, which keeps us going, keeps us doing things, keeps us doing events, keeps us doing prizes. So thank you to all these people. If you're ever interested yourself, whatever podcast supplier you look at the bottom of the notes. You'll see subscribe to show or help show or donate to show. Just click on that button and the rest will just follow through. But these are the people we have got. We have Trestles of New York. We have Badabinkster. We have Tingle Tuner. We have Digital Monkery, Roast Space Monk, The Gaming Gran. I know I've still spelt it Gran on my list, but it is Gran. Bald Border, Boba, Scotty Boy Marathon Gaming, Seal Master Elliot, Ginge, the lovely Emma Sharp, Harvey Retro, Greg, also known as Nowhere Near Berlin, Mum's there. We've got George's one he hates the most, the RGT fan club, Pete Brocklehurst, Billy Marmite, Simon Pryke, and Fat Zangief.
Oh,
so thank you guys. You're all absolute legends, and UCP legends, I should say. But yes, thank you very much.
Thank you all for contributing, everyone. The link is in the description of the show if you want to join and support the show. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. I know this has been a longer episode. We kind of, instead of talking about the games we've been playing, we were deep diving a little bit into the retro side of things, and also just, talking and having a great time. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know. Feedback is always welcome. We always encourage it. And thank you so much for listening. I've been Sebastian Malden, a.k.a. Seb, a.k.a. Triple S, a.k.a. the best single-player gamer that you will ever find. That has been the Uncharted one, the Annihilator, Mr. Retro himself. That is RGT, a.k.a., as it says on his government identification, Retro Gamer Tom. Everyone, we have been the dynamic duo of the UCP. Until next time, stay safe, stay gaming, and remember, what's our slogan?
There's nothing wrong with being given the unofficial controller. It's what you do with it that counts.
I love the way he said that. I had to throw it over there. That English accent sounds perfect with it. Everyone, see ya, everyone.
Laters.